All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about what is, for my money, the most brutal, frustrating, and misunderstood milestone in all of personal finance: saving your first $100,000. It can feel completely impossible, I get it. But today we're going to break down the actual math that proves why it's the hardest part of the journey and also why it's the most important.
If you've ever felt like this, you are not alone. I don't think I've ever seen a sentence that so perfectly captures the psychological battle you face at the beginning. It just feels unfair, it's slow, and honestly, sometimes it feels totally pointless. But there's a very specific mathematical reason for that feeling.
So this is the big question we're going to tackle. We're not just talking about feelings or motivation here. We are going to look at the hard, cold numbers to see why this initial grind is so incredibly tough and why sticking with it is probably the most important financial decision you will ever make.
Okay, so let's start with phase one, and we're going to call it what it feels like, the pointless beginning. This is that stage where the reward just does not seem to match the sacrifice, and it's right here where most people get tempted to just give up. The math here is incredibly simple, but its psychological impact is huge. I mean, a 10% gain sounds great in a headline, right? But when you've only got $1,000 invested, that's just $100. That's what, maybe a dinner out and a tank of gas? It doesn't feel like you're building wealth. It feels like you're earning a tiny bonus for a whole lot of effort.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. There is no passive income at the start. None. Your money isn't working for you while you sleep. You are working. You're the one skipping the fun trips. You're the one driving the old car. You're the one packing your lunch every day. The portfolio is kind of just sitting there. And when you sacrifice all year long for a gain of a few $100, it can feel downright insulting.
This right here is the mindset shift that changes the entire game. The goal of this early stage isn't to get rich off of market returns. The goal is to build the machine. You're just laying the foundation, building up a capital base that's big enough for the magic of compounding to finally kick in.
So let's put some real numbers to this struggle. Let's quantify exactly what this grind looks like over time.
Okay, so using some pretty realistic numbers, say saving about $833 a month, getting a 7% return, it takes almost 8 years to hit that first $100,000. 8 years! That is a long, long time to stay disciplined, especially when the finish line feels completely invisible.
And this chart, wow, it just lays out the stark reality of the grind. Of that first 100 grand, you personally contributed around 78,000 of it. The market? It only chipped in about 22,000. You did almost 80% of all the heavy lifting yourself. This is the perfect way to think about that 80-20 split. You are the engine. You're the one pushing, pulling, and dragging this thing up the hill. Your portfolio isn't really helping much yet. It's the dead weight you're hauling. And quitting now would be like abandoning your car just a few feet from the top of that hill.
But once you get to the top of that hill, the entire dynamic changes. This is where the physics of building wealth completely flips. This is the inflection point we have been working towards.
And right here is where the math starts to feel like actual magic. All of a sudden, an average year in the market generates the exact same amount of money that you are working and sacrificing to save all year long. A switch has just been flipped.
Think of it like this. You've just hired your first full-time employee, an employee who works 24/7 and never complains. Now, there are two of you working to build your wealth. There's you, showing up to your job every single day, and there's your capital, showing up to the market every single day. And for the very first time, you two are equally powerful. So what does this new worker, your capital, actually do for you? Well, it causes a spectacular collapse in the timeline to your next milestones. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Just look at how the pace explodes. What took you nearly 8 years to do the first time now only takes 5 years. Then it's 3.5, and then it's just 2.5 years. The time it takes to stack another $100,000 just shrinks and shrinks.
And you have to remember, this isn't happening because you suddenly became some genius investor or you found a secret stock tip. Nope. This is pure mathematics. Your army of dollars is just getting bigger, and that army is doing more and more of the work for you. It's the predictable, awesome power of compounding once your base is finally big enough to matter.
So knowing all this is one thing, but actually surviving the grind to get there, that's a whole other challenge. So let's talk about how to actually win this game and avoid the common traps that knock so many people off track.
Okay, these three are the great enemies of building wealth early on. First, the income trap.
This one's especially dangerous for high earners who think their big salary is enough. It's not. Your savings rate is what matters. Then there's lifestyle creep. That's the slow poison that just eats up every raise you get. And finally, the big celebration. You know, buying a $50,000 luxury car the day you hit 100K, that's like running a marathon and then choosing to start the next one from a mile behind the starting line. It just undoes so much of your hard work.
You know, reaching this milestone does something way more important than just growing your bank account. It fundamentally changes your identity. Before you hit this number, you're primarily a consumer. Your choices are kind of limited by money. But after, you become an allocator. You start thinking, where should I deploy my capital? And your options for the future just start to multiply.
So how do you protect that fragile progress during the long grind? Well, first, automate everything. Make money scarce in your checking account by moving it to your investment account the second you get paid. Second, focus on the one and only thing you can actually control, your savings rate. Turn it into a game. Can I get it from 15% to 16%? And third, please don't wait for 100K to feel good about it. Build little base camps along the way. Celebrate hitting 25 grand. Give yourself a pat on the back for the hard work at 50 grand.
And really, this is the ultimate promise of the entire grind. You endure years of pushing that dead engine up the hill, feeling every single inch of resistance. But if you don't quit, you reach a point where gravity itself flips in your favor. The heavy lifting is done. From here on out, you're not pushing anymore, you're just steering.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about for your own journey. Where are you on this timeline? Are you in that deep early grind at $5,000? Are you in the long, boring middle at $40,000? Or maybe have you already passed that inflection point at 120K and you're finally starting to feel that incredible shift? Wherever you are, just remember, you're not alone in the grind. Stay the course because I promise you eventually the math will be on your side.